works.
All right, guys, we want to welcome you guys to the first episode of Fishing with B-Mac and MCA. We're going to jump right in, talk a little bit about the show, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to create. And so I'm going to let B-Mac go first.
Well, I mean, our whole goal in this is, to talk about fishing, educate people a little bit more, bring some attention to Lake Okeechobee, and man, just have a good time, And it's not ever a bad time just talking about.
No, it ain't. It's never a bad time. It's never a bad time. Like Brandon said, man, my goal for the entire show is just to be able to educate, be able to provide, conversation to a community that's needed, and so we got a big value for fishing, and so we decided to partner up and create something that gives us the opportunity to talk about it on a much larger scale. And so I know a lot of times we find ourselves in tournaments or whatever fishing and talking about it amongst our buddies, but just being able to share that same conversation on a much larger scale, I think, is extremely cool. So it's gonna be a pleasure, bro, doing it with you for sure.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, two Belglade boys.
Yeah.
Grew up on Lake Okeechobee. I mean, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
So Brandon got a lifelong history of Lake Okeechobee. I'm fairly new to the game. And so we're going to let Brandon here talk about his experiences on Lake O and what it has been like for him for probably over 20 plus, 30 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, I can't actually remember the first tournament I actually fished on the lake. I've told this story time and time again and to new, media people throughout the years, but I remember being in a fish tournament with my dad, and he took me out, and it was cold, one of those cold January, February days, and he had me wrapped up in a sleeping bag in the passenger seat. Just he had to have somebody else in the boat, so that because back then it was, I want to say, a 10 or 15 fish limit, so it was hard to you couldn't compete unless you weighed in all 15. But that was over a single person limit back then, so you had to have two people. You had to have another warm body in the boat to get the full tournament load.
So wait, because that's something I didn't even know. So at one point, you used to be able to weigh in 10 fish?
Yeah, like back in the day, it was 10 fish, 15 fish, somewhere around there, depending on which tournament trail you fished and stuff like that. And I even believe that like the old Bassmasters, some of those were 7 to 10 fish limits. I mean,
oh wow.
I remember as a kid watching Rick Clunn, or seeing pictures of Rick Clunn weighing in when they had them on the stringers back when we used to kill them all, God. And he'd have 10 or 12 of them on there.
Big ones, giants.
Just big ones, yeah. And
what was the weights like back then?
Dude, the weights were awesome back then. I mean, they were a little bit skewed because if you see 57 pounds back then, you think, oh man, that's awesome. I mean, if you see it now, it doesn't translate the same.
Yeah.
But no, fishing was awesome back then. I've often sat out here in my garage and had talks with my brothers and stuff like that of what could we have caught 30 years ago, if the people had the equipment that we have now, the braided line, the giant gaff hooks. I mean, 25 years ago, no one knew what flipping really was. Nobody punched hyacinth mats. Everyone just kind of got mad because they stuck to your boat trailer and you couldn't,
And there was some giants sitting under there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a relatively new thing, I mean, in the fishing world.
So this is what's going to be cool about the show, bro, because for me, with it only being 3 years of like really bass fishing, like tournament bass fishing, or just like not being on a canal bank,
right?
And actually being out on the lake, like, so for me, a lot of these conversations are gonna be like extremely new. So a lot of them we're gonna be educating as we're going too. Yeah. So I think that's what's gonna be cool about it, because I don't know anything about those guys who was catching 10, 15 fish, and having them type of stringers going in. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I've I've sat and talked to some of the old timers, guys that my dad fished against and were buddies with and stuff like that through over the years, and um, you know, the old, and I kind of miss it. I kind of miss this new generation deal like that my brother and I are in. I miss the old days because we would show up to the morning breakfast spot, you know, at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we'd sit there and they'd all have a cup of coffee and eat breakfast, and then you'd have them talk a little bit, you know.
Camaraderie.
But they were super. That old generation was super secretive about stuff, like, but you know, you start to see that like the older guys, like they started to come around and would tell you a little bit or want to show, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They would want to show me something as long as I didn't tell my dad. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of cool, and I miss that because in the tournament world now that we're in, it's a high pace. You know, you go, you're up till midnight rigging rods. You sleep till 4:30. You know, you drive an hour to the boat ramp. You know, and then you fish from daylight to dark. And you know, I miss that whole good old boy type deal.
The camaraderie that was
yeah. I mean, it was good, but
do you think they're taking the passion out of it a little bit?
I mean, I think anytime that you make it a business, it definitely loses a little bit of its value. You know, but that's kind of why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Is
create that conversation.
You know, that's what I grew up. I grew up with the older generation. You know, guys that were significantly older than my dad, and you know, it was a different era. You know, and just a whole different deal. And that's kind of what I want to bring back.
Man, you know what's crazy? Be like, I remember when I first got here, and you know, I'm fishing and I'm catching fish on Lake Gold. And I would have guys come to me and say, well, Jeff, you need to stop posting your videos and stuff, like, you know, where you're at and, like, where you're going. And like, in my short, and I always say this, my short time span, like, Lake Okeechobee is really, really big, but it fish really, really, really small.
It does.
In a sense. And so, like, if they're biting, you know where they're biting at. Just get in your boat and ride. You know, like, and then, like, you hear people, and for me, it's always just being able to show somebody else an experience or give somebody else an experience. And so I never really looked at it like, man, it's not all business, bro. You know, some of it is really just taking an opportunity to provide a need for someone else.
Sure.
And fishing, for me, has always been like, yeah, I'm fishing, I'm catching fish, but whoever I got on that boat with me, bro, got an experience today.
That's 100%, and that's what I love about the deal. You know, I love that, you know, the fact that you can take somebody out that is inexperienced or has never fished before, and they can enjoy, you know, just being out there.
Yeah.
So it's a good deal. You know,
it is. So let's talk about Lake Okeechobee, man. Like, let's talk about it. What it was like back in the day, like when you guys were, and even your dad. Like, what was it like back then?
It's man, it changes so much, you know, every few years. But man, back then, dude, it was a lot simpler because, man, you only had about 4 or 5 ways that you could catch them, or that was it. You could catch them cranking, you know, like up around Pahokee on the rocks from you know, J&S down, you know. And I remember as a kid going through my dad's tackle box, and I would just love to go through it and see all the different things. And it really wasn't anything. He had an old Plano.
He said it really wasn't anything.
It really wasn't nothing. Like, one drawer was full of Fire Tiger bomber crankbaits.
Right.
And the next drawer had some rattle traps in it. And the next drawer had some tiny torpedoes. And that was pretty much it. I mean, you know, and he had this giant duffel bag that he had 100 pounds worth of Charlie's worms in it. And that was it. He took his tackle box and he took that duffel bag, and he had a little one of them small little Plano like weight box,
Yeah,
hook box
yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
and that was it. They had 2 or 3 cranking rods, G Loomis worm rod back then, and dude, that
Old
was
school.
that was it, man. I mean,
Old
10
school.
10 pound monofilament line, like that was
It.
that was it.
That
I mean,
was it.
I remember I was trying to think of the name the other day, but it was and if you know what I'm talking about, maybe you can fill us in. It was brown. The line was stark brown. I mean, almost black, and it was man, for 10-pound line, it was pretty
Hey,
doggone.
if y'all know the line he's talking about, drop us a comment of what that line is. We'll send you a love token.
Yeah.
All right, we'll send you guys a love token. If y'all know the line he's talking about, drop it in the comment section. We'll send you a love token.
Yep, but it was tough stuff.
That's awesome though, bro.
It was good stuff back then, and that was really it, man. I mean,
What was the lake like? Like, what was like? Cause so like, I'm just gonna give you my perspective. So, my perspective when I got here, I'm just assuming like we were on the down stretch of Lake Okeechobee when I got here, like, cause when I got here there was still hydrilla in the lake. There was still, you know, some in some areas at least. Like I remember going up to the monkey box, and in the Jolly Rogers rental boat, riding all the way up to the monkey box. Didn't even know if I could make it. Thank you, Lord. I made it there and back. For real. And the Jolly Rogers jumbo with the little engine back there on the side.
Tiller still.
Oh my God. But man, I remember going up there and not really understanding how important the hydrilla was and how important, you know, that submerged vegetation was on Lake Okeechobee at the time. And to see now that, you know, it's very little to none, you know, in terms of hydrilla, and how important that is to the bass habitat. Like, I know back then, guys, I hear guys say that there were times where you could be in a bunch of hydrilla and you can literally see clear down to the bottom, like in a hole.
Yeah. That's the way it was, man. We had a drought in like 2007, 2008, and it was down. It was, I think it bottomed out at like just a little below 9 foot.
Right.
Was the lake level, and so man, and it stayed down for probably a year, and it just took all of the bottom that we had, and it just, this South Florida sun just baked it for a solid year, and I mean turned it rock hard. And when it did that, as soon as we got a little bit of rain and that water started coming back up, I mean the lake exploded. Grass took off. It was beautiful. I mean there was hydrilla, a good bit of eelgrass, but mainly hydrilla just about everywhere that you wanted it to be. You know, in the places that it really wasn't, like down south where you and I grew up, we had such a muck bottom down there that we didn't really grow a lot of hydrilla, but we grew cattails and round reeds out for probably 2 miles offshore. And then it, you know, as the weather would come and go, you know, we started opening up stuff back there, and that's what we eventually called the hayfield.
Hayfield, yeah.
So
even when I got here, bro, the hayfield was still the hayfield.
Yeah.
Like you still could go out there and you got
Yeah.
you can go that way or you can go that way. Those are your boat trails.
That's it.
If you shot down in between there, you had to idle through those cattails.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, and that made, when the lake was down, the fish really didn't. They spawned really good, obviously, because in the next few years we had a tremendous population of fish. But for the most part, man, as soon as the water come up, the fish come with it, and they had never really, you know, they were unfamiliar with the grass.
Right.
And then we had new grass, and we had bushes growing up. I mean, there was never any hard cover. You know, there's no docks, there's no willow trees or anything like that, but we had a bunch of just random bushes that didn't last the whole, you know, more than about 18 months or so, because they weren't aquatic,
for the
you know,
water, I guess.
hardwoods, but man, it was just a different deal. Like, I mean, you could actually catch them flipping trees and stuff like that, back then, and it was just a different time, but I mean, overall, the lake as it looks now is about close to what I grew up fishing. When I started fishing with my dad, and then throughout high school and stuff like that. It's getting back to the old ways where, I mean, like I said, there for a while we had the hayfield, and we could, I mean, I would always fish the hayfield,
Right.
and the hayfield always stayed clean. It didn't matter if it blew from the north, the south, the east, the west. Like, it stayed clean, and the fish kept coming in there, and that was it. It was just, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was, I knew
where they were going,
where I was gonna fish, and if I could catch them and actually put them in the boat, we were gonna have a good day, and it was gonna be good. But that was a rarity, because the south end usually, just it always stayed dirty. It always was susceptible to the wind,
right.
And water changing from it was clear today and then dirty tomorrow, and that's kind of what we're getting back to now. It's kind of like a timing thing. If you don't play your cards just right, then you're not gonna, it's not gonna make it happen down there.
So I said to a guy, we were out fishing one tournament, and I told him, I was just like, man, there's so many moving parts to ensuring that the lake get back to a very safe and healthy place, so that it's not just conducive to the community, but it also conducive to the habitat that live in it. So that, I mean, it's cool to kind of see how it's all evolving, but there is a lot of moving parts that has to, kind of be on the same page in order for it to get back to its most rawest form.
Yeah, I mean, there is, and a lot of stuff is out of our control, but yeah, it would, this is a special place. It really is. And guys that are gonna watch this and that live out of state somewhere, say at Gunnersville or Chickamauga or
right.
one of those awesome places, Sam Rayburn, and they think, oh, Okeechobee is kind of overrated, and I've heard that lots of times as I travel throughout the country. Oh man, Okeechobee looks like it's going away, or I went down there 15 years ago and it was overrated. I love my home lake.
Right,
Sam Rayburn.
Right.
Just remember, most of the big bass lakes, Rayburn, Lake Fork, all these places, they stole our bass from down here. Then they took them somewhere, and then they grew up. So
That's
we have, they're all Florida strain. And I don't want to say they necessarily come from Okeechobee, but they are Florida strain, largemouth.
Straight up.
So
y'all paid and had them shipped.
Yeah, they bought them by the case and took them somewhere, and now they're 8 and 10 pounders. So
that's how it takes. That's how them boys out there catching.
Yeah, I mean
bag.
that's it. I mean these lakes. I mean, you see them. They'll stock them with Florida strain, and then in 4 years it'll be on Bassmaster's top 10, and in the
but
country.
let's not get it confused, y'all. It came from Florida first.
It did.
All right.
They definitely came from Florida.
Yeah. Don't get it twisted. That's real good though, bro. So Brandon has fished for how many years now?
Professionally, I started in 2016.
2016 professionally. So he has quite a bit of experience. I'm going somewhere with this. So he has quite a bit of experience in the bass fishing industry. Well, he fished as a professional since 2016, but his dad also fished professionally too, right?
Yeah. He started. I guess it was in 2008. He fished, and that's when the things were a little bit different. They had a FLW at the time had a tournament trail that they called it an open division. I think it was 6 events back then still, but it was they were, it's a lot more relaxed on the entries and stuff like that. Still paid a high price. I mean, even back then it was like $3,500 or $4,000. But you could get in and fish, and so Dad's just decided that they were coming to Okeechobee that year. He's like, well, I'll sign up, and that'll be the only one I fish. And then he goes and he finished second. So we were sitting around his garage one day, and I'm like, well, you should probably go fish the next one, like, whatever. I think you made like 50 grand in that one. I'm like, go pay that $3,500 and go somewhere else. So,
All right.
so he did, traveled to the next one, and called me. He's like, it's cold. I'm in Alabama. It's March. I'm freezing. I can't catch nothing. And then he ends up having a decent tournament and finishes like 50th or something. Gets a $10,000 check, and I was like, oh, well, you should probably go fish the next one,
Like, we'll keep it going.
So he did, and and then so on, and then next thing he knows, he finished out the year and was in a deadlock tie, going into the last tournament pretty much, and then he winds up pulling out and wins Angler of the Year. And
First year in.
Yeah, first year in, and just kind of just was like, oh well, I'll go to the next one, or I'll go to the next one, and it just kind of progressed into that, and then honestly he wins Angler of the Year, and then they released the schedule. They're coming back to Okeechobee in 2009, so I was like, well, you should probably fish that one, and so he did, and he won by like 13 pounds or something.
Oh man.
So it kind of he never really had a desire to do it. He just kind of wanted to see if he could hang, here on the lake, and then it kind of just progressed into that. And I think you fished one more year, and in 2010, and then just was like, nah, like that's it. I run my own business. He said I'm done, and his big goal was, back then he was ready. He knew this was something I wanted to do,
right.
and before my brother Jared, before he could really talk, that's pretty much, he knew what he wanted to do was tournament fish.
Yeah.
So Dad was like, well, I'm done. You boys can have it, and I'll come travel with you and hang out, and we'll just live in hotel rooms, and
'Cause that's the life.
Yeah, have a few beers,
that's
and
the life.
Eat bowl peanuts at gas stations, and
that's
that
how
was
you
it.
live.
Like
That's
that was
how
the
you
way
live.
that we were gonna do it. So yeah, it just kind of progressed into that. Like, I knew that I wanted to do it for a long time, and I finally did it. I rolled the dice a little bit here and there. I won the tour event here on Okeechobee in 2011. And then I never fished the rest of them that year. I just said, well, I'm going to take my money and go, because I was 25 years old and $100,000. Like, I thought, I'm good. I can retire. I can live off of that for the rest of my life. And then, about 3 weeks later, I was broke again. So I was like, well, I should probably go get a job.
So wait, whoa, bro, because I wanna someday say I was able to hold up one of those trophies, because that's a bucket list of mine. So we can't overstep that experience. So tell us, like, for you, what was it like for you in doing it at home?
Man, there's no. I may win 10 more, and unless there's one of those 10 that's back here on Okeechobee, be nothing like it. It was awesome. It was unexpected. It was just a dream, really. It was a dream come true that I didn't even really, like, I was so kind of new into it. I didn't really have enough experience to even dream, I mean, to think that it was a possibility. Like, like every morning I get ready to take off, I was just going to be happy if I went, caught some fish, and made it back to weigh-in on time. And it just kind of progressed into it was a great tournament, and I caught so many bass flipping back then. But I didn't have the pressure. One, I didn't know any better. I was too ignorant to know how big it was.
Right.
And then on the second, the biggest thing is that I caught the biggest bag of my life on day one, and that of a 5 fish limit on Okeechobee by myself. I weighed in 27 something the first day. That was the biggest 5 fish bass stringer I'd ever caught.
Right.
And then I catch almost 30 on day two, and beat my
your personal
my
best.
personal best. And I'm still I caught the 10 biggest fish I've caught in a long time to weigh in a tournament, and I'm still 12 pounds out of the lead. So the fact that I did what I did, I was happy. Like
So we kind of talked about offline the garage conversation prior to with your dad, I believe.
Yeah.
Your brother them. Let's talk about that. Like I think this is really cool, bro, because not only you been there and done that, there were things that happened behind the scenes that pushed that energy forward.
Yeah, it was, it was kind of a cool deal. So after the first 2 days of the tournament, they cut half the field, or I think they cut it down to the top 20. So only 20 of us moved on. So I want to say I was in like third place going into day 3, and I was just hanging out at my dad's house. I come back and drop the boat off, and we were sitting in his garage just having a beer. I'm retying my 3 flipping sticks, and he's like, I think you're gonna have a shot at winning this one. I'm like, Dad, hand me another beer, and I'm 12 pounds out of the lead. Like, I've caught the biggest bags that I thought I was ever gonna catch, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, I know something's kind of gonna go wrong. Something, you know what I mean? Like, I've done it enough to know that
27, 30,
Yeah,
and you going in on day 3, you're like, no way, I'm gonna catch that again.
Yeah, so I wake up the next morning, I go out and I catch, I don't know, 25 or 26 pounds. Now, when I left the boat ramp that morning, I was in third place. I go out and I catch 5 that weigh 26 pounds, for the sake of argument. I can't remember. I come back in and I fell from third to fourth with catching 26 pounds.
That's how good it was.
Dude, it was nuts. So again, I go home, go back to the house, do the same old routine. Had a couple beers, and I'm retying my stuff. And Dad's like, "Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be your day. I think you're gonna win." And I'm like, and Jared's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be good." And like, he was like this tall. Like he's like, "Oh, you're gonna do it." And I'm like, whatever. Like, do you not realize? Like, I'm sitting here, like, I'm just an old Belglade guy, and I'm sitting here doing the math in my head, like, I mean, and I'm like, God, you guys are crazy. Like, I just can't.
Unreal.
Yeah, I couldn't see it. So, anyway, went out and had another good day, and caught a bunch of them. Like, just the lake was on fire. Like, it was.
Yeah.
It was nuts. I fished the same 200-yard stretch for 4 days. Shared it with another guy. He finished second on it. We both weighed in over 100 pounds. Like, it was just special. It was listen, every time throughout the year, no matter what lake you're on, there is that one perfect, magical little moment. Whether it's on a Tuesday through Thursday or something like that. There's that time when the fish everything, all the stars align and everything goes right. And that week we just timed it. Right.
Me and the wife talk about all the time, man, like nights before tournaments when I'm just fishing some of the local tournaments and stuff like that. And you just think about, like, everything has to play in your favor that day, bro. Like, everything has to go right, and you might fish your whole life and only have one of those experiences.
That's it.
Like, you might fish your whole life and have one of those experiences, but for one day, man, just everything just going right, and it all. Because, bro, I've been out there, and the day before, 2 days before, like, you're on fish, you're around them, they're in the area. You caught them on Tuesday. The weather, the wind, everything played the right conditions. All right, cool, it's game day. They're going to be there. And you get to your spot, and you're like, dang.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, something always changes. Most of the time, or I'd say 95% of the time, nothing really goes like it was
Supposed to go.
You know, and that's been the biggest thing I've learned fishing the tour and traveling around is, is you have to learn to adjust on the fly. You know what I mean? And not second guess yourself and not, it may work out and it may not. You know what I'm saying?
But you gotta go with it.
You got to do something a little bit different. You got to change it up. Go somewhere you haven't practiced before. Just to do something. I mean, don't be scared to jerk that trolling motor up and just go.
Just go.
That's.
I think a lot of times, man, people just get comfortable and be like, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm only gonna do this, and that ain't fishing.
No.
That ain't fishing. You're gonna lose a lot.
No, you are. But yeah, dude, there's so many different aspects of having a good productive day. A lot starts with, having the right attitude, having equipment that you trust, being prepared, having a little system that helps you, because you spend so many, I love to fish, so I want every moment that I can out on the water. Not necessarily that I may learn something that I can use in the tournament. I just enjoy it, especially we go up north to catch smallmouth. It's not like we got a whole lot of smallmouth down here on Okeechobee
that you ever get to practice for.
Yeah, we go up there and you have such long days. I want to fish. I want to catch them. You know what I mean? I didn't drive 2.5 days down I-95 to get there to fish for 5-6 hours and then go home. But so you have to have a nice routine, a system that works for you, and your system probably wouldn't work for me, and then mine wouldn't work for you, and the same goes with everybody else. Long hours on the water. There's just so much that goes into it.
So if a young guy was practicing and getting ready for a tournament, what would be a basic, a generic, I ain't saying yours, so a generic layout for a guy. So if it's a young guy that was watching and he wanted to get into tournament fishing, what would be 1, 2, 3, a basic, something that generally everybody kind of use? What are those?
It's hard to say. You just, first off, you want, no matter where you go in the country, whatever you do, you want to fish your strengths, whether that's offshore fishing, off the bank fishing, flipping, pitching, whatever. You wanna lean on that crutch as much as you can. Especially with the limited time that somebody may or may not have working a full-time job. It's hard to be the best at everything. And that's a new deal that this new generation of anglers have. Guys like Jacob Wheeler, he can kind of do it all. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of specialists too, like Denny Brower, who's I'm a big fan of. I don't think he's was ever going to be in contention to win throwing a shaky head. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But you put him in 4 foot of water or less and a jig in his hand, he's going to be hard to beat. He was a good model to look up to. But man, the formula that it's just, the biggest thing about being a professional fisherman is that you have to be mentally tough. You got to be tough. You got to have ice water running through your veins, especially to do it, with $3, $4, $5, $6,000 on the line. It's sketchy, but it's that adrenaline. It's that rush.
So people say to me all the time, Jeff, man, so a lot of people in our community don't get an opportunity. Well, the community we grew up in, they don't get a lot of opportunities to go out on the lake and kind of get that full experience out there. So they'll call and say, well, Jeff, how you go out there and stay out there for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours? You know what I'm saying? You have to have a love and a passion for it, but then it's almost like now that I'm learning golf, like you gotta try and figure out what works for you, and then finding some form of consistency to it. Like that's the thing I'm learning about fishing. That's like really, and I guess because I'm so competitive at times. Like I'm like, okay, cool. Let me continue to do this until I can figure out my way. Yep. Like me now, I know I love to flip more than anything else. Just because for me it's about my attention span. So I know if I'm flipping, I'm constantly looking for stuff. Yeah. But if I pick up other stuff, I'm just kind of like in a daze, bro. Yeah. Like it's hard for me to, continue. I found myself like fading away from it.
Yeah, just going through the motions.
Just going through the motions. But when I pick up that flipping stick, my attention to detail I'm always looking to see where the next flip going. Like, so it doesn't look like I'm killing a lot of time. Right. You know what I mean? I wake up, I go back and look at the clock later, it's 3-4 hours gone already, and you're going down the stretch.
Yeah, it's, you just have to work into your system that whatever suits that particular person. Yeah. I mean, when I get out there, it's all business. I don't really eat on the boat. And practice is a little bit different. I'll stop and I'll call my brother, and I'll bring a sandwich or something. And as we're talking, I'll eat something. But in the tournament, it's different, and a lot of guys, marshals that I have or other anglers be like, oh, how can you go all day without eating? I don't know. I just can't. I mean, it doesn't look like I go all day without eating.
I'm guilty of it too, bro. I could. And my wife or whoever I'm fishing with, she said the most, like, boy, you'll go all day and don't eat nothing. Yeah. And I literally I stole this from Gerald. I will take a cold Mountain Dew.
Oh, I take about 13 of them.
Yeah, I will take, bro, I don't know what it is about that Mountain Dew when you fishing with no food, nothing. But if you pop that Mountain Dew, bro, I don't know. It takes me in overdrive. I feel great, bro, and I can go another 2-3 hours.
I pretty much only drink Mountain Dew. I have occasional Gatorade and some waters in here.
Really?
But, oh yeah.
I didn't even know that. So, that's cool. I don't know what it is, bro.
My alarm clock goes off wherever we are. Go to the refrigerator, get a Mountain Dew, linger around, have a honey bun before tournament day, and then we go. And then I pound them. I got on a little sun-kissed kick one time, but then I'd come in and my wife was like, what's up with your lips? And they would just be stained orange, and so I'd have to see these people and, take pictures and stuff.
Yeah, with orange lips.
And I'm like, I should probably just go back to
Mountain Dew. Yeah, that Mountain Dew, man, I don't know what it is. It kicks it, though.
Oh, yeah.
It kicks it. Hey, man, but this is the first episode, bro.
Yeah.
Super excited about it. I hope you guys have learned something from the show today. Stay tuned, though, because we're going to be doing a lot of these. We're going to be talking about Lake Okeechobee. We're also going to see us doing some tackles, some breakdowns. We're going to be talking through the pro versus the rookie and the amateur. So we're going to be sharing all these different experiences. I'm going to ask all the questions these young amateur guys want to ask and never get the opportunity to ask. And then we'll make sure we put BMAC in a position to kind of help educate all of us, right? And so we're excited about it, bro. But yeah, man.
Yeah, this is it.
It's
be good, yeah.
Muck babies too.
That's right.
That's what's really cool, man. We really want to see Lake Okeechobee in a better space. So we're gonna create those conversations. We want you guys to share them. We want you guys to comment on them. We want to push that conversation forward, man. We want to see the lake back in a very healthable place, not just for our community and our agriculture areas and stuff like that, but for the habitat that lives and that's associated with Lake Okeechobee as well is very important. And so we want to push these conversations as much as we can to help bring back our lake.
Yes.
Hope y'all understand that. And if y'all don't understand, we're going to help educate y'all to understand.
That's right. Yeah. That's our main focus. I want to see it
in a better space.
I want to see it back to the 100-pound days.
100-pound mark.
Yeah.
Bro, 100 pounds.
Pretty awesome.
100 pounds.
Pretty awesome.
Thanks for watching, y'all.